It's preparing a separate live stream for opt out.
Well, it says it's. Huh, that's weird. Maybe is that on your channel?
No, it's
It says
so
it's not. Hold on. Copy
so we,
streaming link.
we are live right now.
I, I was thinking, what if I try to do the video from my phone? It might work better.
That's fine. This problem is on our end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just
All
thinking
right.
I could do the original thing from the phone, but if it would help it, not if not.
No, it just seems like I have it. Okay, so we haven't figured out how to use the waiting room feature, basically. So we're live on YouTube right now. We're just not live in the one that we set up yesterday, and I don't think there is a way to like set it up beforehand with, or at least if there is, I don't know it.
Yeah. Well, let's just post. There's a different link now, so um, I will. Let's just tweet that out, and then we can get going. Um, okay. Sorry, folks. We should have done a test run.
We should
It's
have done.
okay.
Yes.
Never mind. It's the holidays and everybody's lost their minds.
Yeah, it's definitely
True.
a fun time.
It's just a strange time.
How are you holding up, Maria?
I'm actually fine. I mean, touch wood. It's like, doing a startup during all this is sort of like, as you know, it's like really great to have a hopeful, fun thing to work on that you love and is a good idea. And on the other hand, it's like this incredibly stressful time, and then you've got this incredibly stressful thing on top of it. So it's like, it's pretty intense. But I'm having a ball actually. I almost like guiltily. you know? It's like I'm really having fun with this thing, and it's
No,
like I
that's
almost feel
good.
like I shouldn't be having fun. Yeah.
No, you have to look. You have to. Otherwise, it's just this horrible, depressing slog.
I know. I
Um,
know. Otherwise, everything's impossible and terrible.
yes.
Same with you guys, right? Like opt out is starting to look really good. You've got this like app that you're building, and it's sort of something positive to focus on. Is just, I mean, it's an invaluable boon at this moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's major credit to Alex for doing all this stuff behind the scenes, and um,
Yeah,
it is
that's the
shaping up, and
thing.
the Progressive Coders Network too deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, because that's the thing, right? It's like it seems like okay, we're gonna do this thing, but actually, then immediately it gets like completely bogged down in a million details of trying to make it like all the little bits of it work together, and the people, and the code that you have to write, and all this stuff. Like it all has to work together, and it all has to not break, and you have to figure out a way to get everybody paid, and it's just a huge like it's sort of like there's a little tiny bit of it that people can see and experience as sort of the bit of the iceberg that's above the water, and underneath it, it's like, it's crazy. Paul Ford had tweeted this thing about the brick house when it opened, saying like, wow, this happened so quickly and it was so smooth. And I was just like, yeah. And so I tweeted back to him a picture of ducks, paddling under the water. Oh.
So what's the story behind the name? I love the name, and the logo is pretty cool too. Like the H is as the
Thank
house
you.
itself.
Well, let's just
Yeah,
give an intro real quick, if you don't mind. So we are
sure.
finally live, 20 minutes late, but we have figured it out sort of. Next time we'll have the right link for you. But the point is, we're very happy to have our inaugural Opt Outcast, the podcast of Opt Out, which is a forthcoming independent media aggregation app that Walker and I are building with the Progressive Coders Network. One of our founding media partners is Popula, which is a news and culture website founded by our guest, Maria Bustillos, who is here today to join us.
Hi.
Hello, Maria. Thank you for joining us all the way from Scotland over the interwebs. And you're gonna tell us all about your new project, which is called Brick House. It's a media cooperative of, I believe, 9 different news websites, news operations that are kind of under one roof. So really excited to have you on and ask you all about your new project.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be the inaugural guest. And I love OptOut, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. So, okay, so what were we talking about? We're going to introduce
So
Brick
first
House,
of all,
which I'm...
the name.
Yeah,
How did the name Brick House come up?
Well, Tom Skoka and I were talking about, like, what are we going to call this thing? Because the genesis of the entire project, like, it sort of started at Civil, which was a sort of blockchain based publishing platform that he and I and a couple of others, Harry Siegel and Dave Moore, whom you know well from Sledge, had all worked at Civil together. And so we had these, the ambition when we were at Civil to build a cooperative project that was kind of like a tokenized project. It was a blockchain-based deal. The thing failed in the crypto winter of 2018. It's been real irony to see like Bitcoin prices this very day reaching, like well over $23,000, like the record of ever, but like back in 2018, there was like this huge crash. And so that project failed, but like we had these publications and, they were great and we're building audiences and, the purpose of what we had started out to do was to create a means by which journalists could work together to strengthen each other's work and to create business structures that were like incentivizing quality journalism and that we could all work together to strengthen. And so Skoka and I were like talking and I was like, I just want to make a thing that can't be just blown down, right? Because, he had been an editor at Gawker, and I had been in the courtroom when Gawker crashed, was killed by Peter Thiel. And, I reported on Sheldon Adelson's purchase of the Las Vegas Review-Journal in secret, like all these different things that have happened that we've seen outside forces, like, sort of take aim against independent journalism. Like, our idea, like the whole time was, what can we make a place for ourselves that is safe against this? And so I'm like, well, it should be like it can't get blown down. And then we immediately thought it was Three Little Pigs, and that's why the name. And the logo is, everybody likes the Commodores song too, but that isn't the reason. That was not the first reason.
No,
that was a
I like
secondary
that.
reason.
Yeah, it can't be blown down. I like that. I was telling Alex that when I was a kid, I had this video of the Muppets reenacting fairy tales, classic fairy tales, and one of them was
cool.
Was the Three Little Pigs, and like the wolf approaches the house, which is naturally Miss Piggy's house, and he's like, a brick house, and she's like, well, you're no Junior Petite yourself, mister. And it's great. It's the one thing it's the one thing I remember from that, that collection. It's stuck with me all these years.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Junior Petite is a very old-fashioned phrase. It was a range of sizes for like teenage girls that in a dress shop, it was like there were ladies sizes and there was Junior Petite. That's amazing. Anyways, yes, that's why the name. And the logo was designed by Trevor Alexopoulos, who worked at Popula a lot. And so, this thing kind of came out of, he's a wonderful like cartoonist and artist and graphic designer. And it was one of those things where I said, well, just, draw some stuff that would be a good logo. When he came back, the very first thing that he drew was what we have. We all just fell in love with it immediately. And so, yeah, it's been really great, you know, because it's very mellow. Like, we all have been working together for a long time. The other 5 sort of publishers are, you know, people who are known to us, you know, for some time, people we've worked together, written together. And I mean, everybody's sort of vision of this thing is we're going to take our time and make a thing that is worth being part of and that can last. And, you know, not having the imperative of having to make money for anybody outside of this thing is just really motivating, and it takes a lot of the pressure off.
So, you know, this is a pretty unique model. Yeah, it puts 9 different publications under one roof with one subscription. I think it's a big step towards consolidating independent media in ways that are rarely done, and that's something that OptOut we're also working to do in a kind of different way as more of an aggregator than a creator of content initially.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, and I should say Maria is an advisor to OptOut as well. So you know, we sought your advice from the get-go on this. But you know, the Brick House is founded, owned, and operated by journalists. So can you kind of talk about how that works, how it works for, you know, the journalists to, you know, to own and operate a cooperative?
Yeah, we worked on this for many months. It's the part of it that I'm proudest of, for sure. We were very fortunate in securing the services of an old friend of mine who's a corporate lawyer in Ohio named George Carr, who turned out to be this complete genius, you know, about how to do this, because, you know, many of the attacks that we've seen on the independent press have taken place like through the avenues relating to equity, ownership, like the business, the way we think about it, like an ordinary business in the modern world, is basically their equity, like the person who owns the underlying sort of vessel, the company, the LLC, whatever. Like, that person has the right to determine a lot of things about what takes place in that company. Or like in the case of Gawker, like, you had a lot of the wealth was concentrated. Like, you could attack the wealth of the owner in that case, and, you know, kind of get to, like, you shut these journalists up by that means. And so when we started thinking about, like, how do we try to secure this entity against those kinds of attacks, our idea was to reduce or remove completely the concept of equity from the project. Because, like, the project is there, the company is there to make enough money to run the company and for people to get salaries, and, you know, we share the revenues, and each publication will get, you know, a certain amount, like, based on, you know, there's all these formulas for different parts of it. Like, part of it is how many bylines your publication produces, because some people obviously have a newsroom with like 4 or 5 journalists, some are just one. So we wanted to make sure that part of the money was split up equally between online, and part of it was sort of tied to publishing activity, not page views or anything like that, but just like how many bylines are being produced. So we had all these different ideas. And then what we decided to do was we made the LLC, and the LLC is run according to an operating agreement that everybody has to sign to get in. And when you join the Brick House, you have to buy a share, and the share costs $1, and you cannot sell it or do anything with it at all except for sell it back to the company for $1. So rather than creating a company that, you know, in which the equity is the sort of part of it that's being built and that's growing and that everybody's working toward, is equity shares that can be bought, appreciated, and sold, you know, with a view to an exit strategy of some kind. This project is sort of like the people who are working in it are the ones who are going to benefit from it. And when they leave, they can no longer benefit from it. They leave it there for the other people that are going to work in it. So that's kind of the basic structure of how it works.
Yeah, well, that's really cool, and also just the idea that if you're not actively a participant, you can't own any part of it, um, which to me, I think it is such a smart strategy. Um, no one's going to come in and blow the house down; they don't have the power to.
Yeah, and nobody who's in it can, like, decide, oh, well, I can now sell this thing for a couple million. So, like, there was one story that I thought about a lot while we were designing this thing. And I mean, it was, Trevor is a business librarian. In addition to being a really genius comics artist, he is has worked in institutional libraries, business libraries, and universities for a lot of years, and so he knows a lot about business. And so I had these like super brainiacs, advising me. Like, in addition to my regular advisors and accountants and everything, I had such incredibly great advice for this. And it was kind of like, we thought about Craigslist quite a bit. It was one of the things that we discussed a few times because, Craig Newmark had partners who eventually, like, it became very tempting. And one of them, I sold their interest to eBay. And this was like the huge enemy, like eBay wanted to buy Craigslist and smash it. They did that to a number of companies, many companies, probably hundreds, like, in the early days. And so he had to move heaven and earth, right? But that was the thing. Like, you had one owner, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting all the details are correct. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure. Anyway, the idea being, and this has happened many times, you get founders or people in on the ground floor, and if an entity grows to the point where it becomes extremely attractive to sell your portion of it, you can't really stop people, and it creates all kinds of problems for the underlying entity. And so that was kind of like on my mind a lot. It's sort of like, no, we have to make it so that the equity stays in the company always. And that's what we did.
That's fantastic.
I know. I love it. I love this thing. I freaking love this thing, I tell you.
Yeah. See, look, it's important to find moments in the just sheer nightmare that we're all living, that you enjoy and find incredible.
Yeah, because stuff could, like, okay, things could get better. It's like it's very hard to believe that there could be a good surprise this year. Like, there's been so many bad ones, but like there can be really good ones. It's possible to pull it out of the hat, still. And it's like, as long as you believe that and you're willing to try, that would be the only way that it could happen. So I wake up every morning thinking, like, yes, it's going to happen, and all this is worth doing. And, we've been able to do a lot, right? We're representing like a really hopeful vision for media, and I'm so proud to be part of it. And I love, where it's going. It's the usual fires being put out every single day. Something's breaking and stuff is late, and now it's the holidays, and like we've got like 20 people involved in this thing, and a bunch of them have little kids that are being homeschooled. I mean, it's like really complicated getting everything done, like sort of on time and really well. But like, when you consider that we started the Kickstarter that funded the development of this thing on August 25th, I mean, it's not that long. That it didn't take us that long to raise over $100,000, put together this really, like, the beginnings of a really quite beautiful and efficient website, and start publicizing it and getting some incredible stuff written. I'm super proud of it.
Yeah, one thing I love when I checked out your website was that it says, like, this isn't a polished, like, product. We're just trying to do good journalism.
Yeah.
No, I really can relate. I love that. So tell me, do you think that do you see this model that you are sort of pioneering? Do you see this spreading and becoming
yes,
like an industry standard?
Yes, there should be hundreds of these things. I mean, if this one does really well, we'll invite people, the first minute we can, when it's stable and we have a stable subscriber base and we know what we're doing and we've sort of kicked the tires on it. I hope to have dozens or even hundreds, of journalists, even at just the Brick House. But anybody who wants to, please get in touch with me, Maria at thebrick.house, and I will send you our documents and give advice to anybody who wants to start something like this. The door's open. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to instantiate and demonstrate, a different way to do this. And I think it's going to have legs. I think people are really interested in it, and we were written up in the New York Times right out the box, and I'm really encouraged by the response that it's had so far.
That's great. Congratulations, Alex. I expect we'll be getting our invites soon enough.
Yes, indeed.
Well, actually, we kind of did get one already. We're too busy, but no, everyone's now talking about how there's so many Substacks, and it's just kind of like you have tons of different subscriptions, free or paid, both. You're getting a lot of emails from all these different disparate outlets. We, as you well know, you're one of the first people we talked to for advice about opt-out. We were talking about aggregating independent media since last spring, when Walker and I were just having a lot of phone conversations during the lockdown in New York at the beginning of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And so then many months later, Substack, I believe just yesterday, came out with what's called Substack Reader, I believe. So it's basically it aggregates the Substacks that you're subscribed to with the same email address kind of on one page. And then you can just click.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your site. Like you click and you go to the other site. And you go to
Don't advertise them,
Alex.
Well, what I'm saying is, so Substack, I'm surprised it took them this long just to do a very simple thing within their little network. And I think it will help the user base of Substack in order to just have a little bit better interface for the Substacks they follow. But then again, they are only limited to the one platform. You guys have a website that is not limited by platform. Everyone has their own site. They can do what they want. They can publish how they like. It looks a lot cooler. I was just how do you pronounce it? Awry? AWRY?
Awry. Oh my God, it's so beautiful.
It's a comics site, and it's unbelievable. And I'm pretty sure I clicked on a different link than I did before, and the background of the website's different. I think it changes.
I just love how it came out.
It is.
That's the thing, we had to stand up. Yeah, it's really beautiful. I love Tasteful Root too. It's they're all really great looking. We had to stand up all these new sites really, really quickly. And everybody has a lot of ideas about, sort of moving forward. It's just a question of getting the subscriber base, that's of a reasonable size that we can fund everybody's amazing ideas, the big difference between what we're doing and sort of the Substack model is that we are not trying to have control over these publishers. Every publisher is free who is a Brick House member to pursue other sort of projects. They may have, Sludge has relationships with foundations. They do different projects where they do research and they provide other stuff, and that takes place completely outside the Brick House. It doesn't affect it, right? It's a separate thing. In order to be in the Brick House, you just have to say, okay, I'm going to publish, 2 stories a week minimum. Most people are doing more, but 2 stories a week minimum on the Brick House site. Outside of that, you can do your whatever you want and connect it in however you want, but this is your sort of obligation. And so people can do experiments sort of beyond what they're doing at our site. So it's sort of we're not trying to own, you know what I mean? This is the really important part of it to me. We're trying to enable. And so we have a really great place for you to come and read. And these are unique things that you can only read. Once we put paywall up at some point in the beginning of the year. You'll be able to get like 3-4 stories for free, and then after that you have to pay. And you know, you will not be able to see those stories unless you pay, because they won't exist anywhere else. But so we're offering this really sort of unique resource, and almost like for some people it may be almost like a calling card. For others it may be their, like for Popula is not going to publish anywhere but the Brick House. You know, starting on December 8th when it opens, like Popula is just sort of like a exists only within the confines of the Brick House, because I'm completely all in on this thing. But others may have other plans. They may want to integrate what we're doing into a larger scheme. I can imagine like much larger entities than ours, you know, maybe wanting to do experiments or projects on our site, like really trying to have the door wide open for as many interesting projects as we can bring into the world and make look beautiful, and, you know, sort of gather a big audience for outside commercial imperatives.
Yeah. And so for the subscribers, let me see if I've got this right. It's $75 a year for access to all the content on Brick House website, which I guess in a few weeks will be mostly paywall. You said there'll be probably, you know, I think it's called a metered paywall, where you get maybe 4 or 5 articles free, and then it kicks in maybe for the month. You get the rest are behind the paywall for a month or something like that. Okay,
that's
cool.
exactly
so that's pretty
right.
Similar to, you know, the Atlantic and places like that have got that kind of metered paywall. But you know, in this case, you're getting access to 9 publications. They're all really different. There's at least there's one podcast, right? FAQ NYC. There's the cartoon. There's Awry. I mean, what else is part of the mix here?
Well, there were the 4 original civil projects that were already have like a big sort of archive, you know, because we've been publishing for a couple of years. Is Popula, Weekly, which is Tom Skoka and Joe McLeod's site, Sludge, and which is Uncovering Corruption in Politics, a really wonderful investigative site, and FAQ NYC, which is a podcast about New York that's run by Harry Siegel, Dr. Christine Greer, and Alex Brooklyn. And that is just this really hardcore, deep regional podcast. And
yeah, I listen to it.
It's just so good. Yeah, my dream thing is like I want to syndicate the sort of FAQ NYC model to other cities if we can, because their approach is so amazing. It's so like it's like culturally really literate, but it's also politically really literate, and it's just very undeceived. Just this really great thing. I just would love to see that grow more and more, you know. So those are those 4. And then the new publications we have are Awry, as you say, is like Jason Adam Katzenstein's comics blog. He had done drawings for Popula. He also has worked at the Current Affairs quite a lot. He did the live blogging, live drawing for the debates. That was really fun at Current Affairs. I really loved that. And he works a lot at the New Yorker. And so I asked him, do you want to do your own thing? And he was like, yeah. And it was incredible what they came up with. I just love how that thing looks. And so that was really exciting. And then Tasteful Rude is Miriam Gorba, who does like sort of criticism, like cultural criticism from a feminist perspective. Very extremely lively writer whom I enjoy hugely. We have No Man is an Island, which is Brian Yu, who also had written quite a bit at Popula. He runs a website in Taiwan called New Bloom. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's really, really cool. And he did a lot of that really incredible Hong Kong coverage that we had at Popula last year when they were, you know, during the demonstrations and all of this. And so when I asked him, he got some of his New Bloom colleagues together to do No Man is an Island, and it's sort of more of a cultural take on sort of East Asia and East Asian politics and activism than you ordinarily see especially in the States, in mainstream media. And it was the same with Olongo Africa, which is this. It's really an interesting mix because there's politics, but basically these are academics in Lagos. Kola Tubosun, who is a really, really brilliant linguist and scholar, and they're sort of writing about a little bit about sort of Nigerian activism, a little bit about Nigerian literature, Pan-African. It's sort of a Pan-African literary digest with, a little bit of activist overtones to it.
That's great, because one of the things that I think independent media struggles with is that a lot of these smaller outlets sort of have to specialize, and so they do they cover like one thing, like Sludge will cover money and politics, but doesn't have like a foreign correspondence bureau and doesn't have journalists in Lagos, Nigeria. So that's great that you're able to sort of get by bringing these outlets and journalists together, you're able to sort of overcome that problem.
It's incredible. I have to mention the last one that I didn't mention, which is Preachy, which was is Mike Kanan's and Sunny Sohn's publication. It's about religion and spirituality, but it's not. It's really super, super critical. Like, what do I want to say? It has outer space and introspection, and sort of it talks about rhetoric and talks about the abstract and mystery, and I don't know, you have to read it. The first piece is so great. It was about being like a messed up Muslim or something. This guy had written about his troubled relationship with the religion that he was brought up into in Islam, and it is mesmerizing. It's just so great about, the problems that people have dealing with sort of religious traditions and things that they were kind of inculcated in them, and like how they wound up dealing with them as adults. And I really love it. And so that's the 9. And then the great thing that is already happening that I hoped would happen is it's created this sort of ferment where people are like, well, can you make me a drawing? Basically ask Jason, can you make me a drawing? Can you tell me a writer who I can speak with, in Egypt? Can you and everybody's kind of trading notes and helping each other with WordPress and photographs and, Tasteful Ruth is one, Jeff, the photographer at Tasteful Ruth, is so incredible, and everybody's all swapping stuff, and it's beautiful. It's this really great thing because there's all this freedom where it's everybody isn't sort of bound to a single sort of editorial ethos or especially not a commercial ethos, but we're all working on this project together in this atmosphere of real freedom, and it makes the freedom actually creates an incredible collaborative ferment that I'm enjoying a lot.
I might get in trouble for saying this, but it kind of sounds like what Civil was supposed to be in a way. You've got the outlets are actually working together. There's no barrier to them working together, and the development is just kind of free to go, right? So, I mean, that's what
It was what I had hoped. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing. I always tell people I've been working on the same thing for 3 years. It's the thing that was attractive to me about Civil was the chance to make it into something like this, because that's been what's missing. It's kind of the sort of the commercial imperatives of what we're all forced to do our journalism are at odds with the idea of journalism as a public trust. And most people get into this business not to make money. They get into it because they believe in journalism as a public trust. And so you give them a chance to do that. It's incredibly stimulating. And I think we're going to create some really beautiful stuff. I mean, we already are and have, but it's it's been a week. So in a week, I think it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, that's so exciting, and serious congrats on it. you know, we had conversations a long time ago, yeah, about this kind of thing. So it's so cool for me to see you've done it, and it came
And
together.
well, so
quite
have
quickly.
you. We're gonna like, and we're able to work together. I mean, this is the thing. It's gonna be like, you know, let 1,000 flowers bloom for sure. Like, because the thing is having the sort of the ethical sort of mindset, you know, of like, what can we do, all of us, to contribute to make things better in our industry. It's like, I think both of these approaches are really, really great. I think aggregation, you know, has a huge future for it in front of it, you know, if it's kind of practiced in a way that isn't meant to just extract money out of people. It's like, you can already see like how much more fun the group of journalists at OptOut is, you know, like talking with each other and like, you know, sharing resources. We talked about this a little bit too when we had different meetings. It's like there's a kind of a separate kind of plane on which you can sort of try out and experiment, you know, to get really good results. So definitely see us working with OptOut to figure out all kinds of really cool new things.
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely have to have conversations about how to do that. And I should say for our listeners that Popula and Sludge are both opt-out partners officially, and perhaps more will join. But we're certainly obviously quite allied with Brickhouse and totally believe and endorse what you're doing. Because again, you know, it overlaps a lot with what we're doing. I think we have really the same goals here. Um, so yeah, and opt out. I mean, we haven't really talked too much on our other podcast, Gilded Age, about opt out specifically. This one's going to obviously be more focused on our opt out partners, but also what opt out is and how we're going to roll it out and stuff. We're not nearly as far along as you are, but we have we're more focused on this app product. Although we will have a web version, a web app, and a website to correspond with it. But yeah, we're aggregating both, you know, articles, podcasts, and videos. And now, you know, the app is pretty far along in development. I mean, it's not out yet. We're hoping to launch it in March in beta form. But we already have a pretty functional app now that we're working on. It's really exciting to see every time they update it. I download it and check it out, and you know, it like plays videos, it plays podcasts, it has articles, and you know, we're independent journalists ourselves, so that's our focus is just what you're talking about is helping out our troubled industry, our dying industry, and so, you know, we
Wrenching
link
it back from the hands of private equity.
exactly, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's the thing. It's not dying. It's like, this is so ridiculous. It's like, I got to take issue with that. It's like, people need to know what's going on.
I said the word, and I said I meant to say a different word, but maybe under
no,
attack.
but I mean, everybody says this is like, you know, this thing is not gonna. But I mean, like, we're the ones who make this shit, man. It's like, you know, private equity can try to, you know, own every single atom of what you do, you know, but the reality is we make it. And so, and people need the things we make. They need to know what's going on. They need us to go down and to the place where the thing is happening and talk to all the participants and come back and write about it and tell them. It's like, this is like right. This essential, you know, sort of like societal like bulwark against like total ignorance and darkness. Right.
We also have to make sure that people understand that what they're getting, the outlets that are not threatened are not giving them everything they need to understand what is actually happening. And and I think deliberately so. I mean, you know, not to single out anyone in particular, but MSNBC and Fox News are not designed to inform their audiences and give them a well-rounded view of the news day. They are partisan arms for political parties.
I watch a lot of MSNBC.
I am so sorry.
Because I am I write about MSNBC for the Columbia Journalism Review from time to time. And so I watched quite a lot of it. And it's sort of like the idea of whether it's deliberate or not, like the constraints, within which like a sort of cable news organization is forced to operate. I don't even know that it's deliberate so much as it's just a function of the machine that they're in. It's like there just aren't any windows in that building. You know what I mean? I don't mean like literally. I mean like they can't see outside of their own machinery easily. And so it's almost like it happens by accident or as a matter of course, like once somebody walks into that
money.
world.
It's
I don't think
that
that
the money comes from. Like, I mean, not the party itself, but like people want their worldview reinforced, and that was something Fox discovered quite that worked quite well. Back in like the 90s, but especially the early aughts. The Fox News model really dominated the industry, and now I think it's become sort of a standard where even PBS, even watching like PBS, they still have to compete with this sort of hyper partisan, I guess, ratings game, and it's quite disappointing.
I always wonder about that, the ratings thing. I talked to Phil Donahue once, and it made such an impression on me. This is like a real genius, of broadcast television, and a really good man, I think. And he said this thing to me that I think about constantly. He said that the size of the audience is the coin of the realm. Meaning that like in all directions, right? Like if you can gather the huge audience, then that means you can call the shots more at your own show. This is like why like a guy like Tucker Carlson, who is now the most popular host, I guess, at Fox, like just became more and more and more extreme because it gathered more and more and more audience, according to their formula. And he was willing to like, sort of give up making any sense at all and like becoming like a total xenophobe and jingoist and whatever in exchange for that kind of power. And so it's sort of deliberate and it's sort of about the ratings and all that stuff. But I mean, I think there's a lot of really honest journalists. Like there was that girl, Ariana Picari, who quit MSNBC because she just felt like that it was too toxic, and like, because there's all these people that are in that machine who are really trying to do good work, but the machine itself constrains them. And so it's like, it's just like at Fox, like there's a good number of honest journalists there who are really trying to do a good job. And I mean, I think it was very striking, when they called Arizona for Biden, and the first people to do it were at Fox. And, they have this reputation of being like relatively, trustworthy in their sort of polling section or whatever it's called, department. And, so it's kind of mixed up, right? There's some honesty and some kind of really like troubled and corrupt commercial disastrous mess that's going on kind of simultaneously. I kind of think it's important to sort of tease out what the difference is and to try to apply pressure in the places where it could get better.
Well, they reward the bad actors. I mean, that's the problem. Like Tucker is a bad actor. He gets rewarded. Joy Reid lied on air about being hacked. She did. And she gets rewarded with a primetime show. And Brian Williams lied. He's still on the air. Like, we have to take, if you want a more honest broadcast network, like if you want more honest broadcast journalism, you have to fire the people who lie. And I think part of the reason that Reid was rewarded is because she is a partisan operative. The same thing with Carlson. He is effectively a partisan operative.
And so, I think that could be part of it, but it's also that, like, they both are really, really skilled at their thing. Yeah, I don't like their thing in either case, actually. And I thought the hacking thing was really it it wasn't even, it was lying about it, that was just so unbelievable. And it was exposed, and they just decided that it was in their interest at that network to go ahead and keep this person. And so it was very disappointing, to me as a viewer. I agree with you. I think that when somebody whose sort of job it is to inform the public, and be a trustworthy source of information, is exposed as a deceitful person, it's like they've kind of indicated that they're not going to be great at their job, right? So it's pretty obvious that person shouldn't be in that job. So, okay, so you look at it from the other side. Here is a person who is actually a very, like, a person who's connected in the case of Joy Reid, she's like really like connected in that whole sort of DNC world, like very deeply.
Right.
She's like but she's also like a good, I would say, she can decoct really quickly a political situation for that audience in an entertaining and articulate, fast, clear, funny way. She's really good at it.
For
At the same
already
time,
converted.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So
She's
that's
really,
the
really good at
model.
it, though.
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
mean,
I
of
think
course.
I think there's just a couple layers to a network like that. Like as you say, it is kind of like you have major papers have opinion section versus their kind of hard news sections, which are often very different.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think you still have, whether it's New York Times or MSNBC, you still have an overall kind of corporate media narrative that's kind of throughout those networks, and then you have but you have some pretty good journalism mixed in with that,
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
caveat that you're going to have like crappy headlines written by editors, and you're going to have some things are off limits, and you have this kind of corporate bias. But then you have the opinion section, which in terms of the networks is prime time, is what most people understand to be the networks, maybe unfairly, but that's what they that's what they choose to put at 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. So those are the two levels, and I think one is worse than the other, but they're both kind of part of
It's
this
come to
corporate media
replace the
thing
news.
that not yeah, but that's true too. But that no opt
Mm-hmm.
out, no opt out partners are part of the corporate media, and certainly no one at Brick House is. So we're choosing to just completely sidestep all of that.
Yeah.
Because I think it
I mean,
does. I think people are more honest when they're not part of a major corporate network or publication. They can be more honest.
I really care about this a lot, and I think that there is a future where there doesn't have to be that kind of a divide. Honestly, I never, until I got this gig, I never really watched as much cable news as I do now. I watched quite a bit of cable news. Like last week, I wrote a thing about, sort of. I'd be interested in what you guys think about this too. The question was, Fox News versus MSNBC is sort of like, the sort of Godzilla versus Mothra, right? Like now what? Like without Trump, how does that sort of detente, what does it morph into, in January? What are they going to do? I asked a bunch of people about this, and I asked Ben Smith, and he said, well, they need the drama, so they will elevate. He suggested they might elevate sort of the Democratic left to create a drama so that it would have it be AOC versus Biden or something like that. And I thought, well, there's signs of it already, right? It's kind of interesting. Like they'll make a drama, which is, it's frightening because everybody has to live with the consequences of what these people decide, and that's actually sort of terrifying on one level. But on the other, it's kind of like, okay, well, what can people like us do with that? There's actually no better exponent out there. To me, Chris Hayes is the equal of Ed Young at The Atlantic. His COVID coverage, since February has been friggin' stellar, and so it's kind of like, don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater there. There's been some really, really responsible stuff.
Yeah, I think he's by far the best host in MSNBC. I don't watch it a lot in general, but I I do appreciate his work for the most part.
Well, he frustrates me because he's like, how do these bad actors keep getting legitimized? And then Owen Higgins, who I absolutely love, will post in his thread like an image of his show with Hayes next to the bad actors in question. Like, gosh, I wonder.
Yeah, but I mean, if he look, I mean, Chris more than anyone certainly he has a lot of progressives and leftists on his show.
Oh
Actually,
my
in
God.
CNN, CNN started bringing in some leftists, some Democratic socialists, because they during the primary, because it was a fairly important constituency, given that Bernie was winning until like the fifth state or the fourth state. So I mean, that's an interesting question about MSNBC creating the drama. I mean, the thing is, it's already kind of there, and especially in the print media, like Politico, those sort of access journalism type DC shops are they've been doing this for a long time. Maybe MSNBC or kind of crank that up a notch. I don't know if it's going to be a good or bad thing for the left. I mean, AOC has no shortage of interview opportunities. Like, I don't think that's going to change either way. But it is good for leftists to get on camera. The problem is if it's framed the way that Joanne Reed frames it, then it's going
Or
to make
Stephanie
the left look
Rule.
bad.
Do you see
Right.
that interview with Bernie Sanders? Bernie, you're a completely ineffectual legislator. Discuss.
Yeah, I mean, there's just
Bernie, you really kind of suck at your job. Do you think you're the guy who can deliver this necessary life-saving thing that you're fighting for and no one else is?
I mean, it's actually amazing though. Like, he just has so much patience. He just will answer the question like, well, actually, I'm an effective legislator, and here's how. It's just like what would drive anybody else completely insane, he just like quietly gets on with it, and I admire that a lot. I don't know. I see opportunities. I do. I see opportunities for opt-out. I see opportunities for Brickhouse. I see, like, the sort of conventional view on the left of mainstream media is that it's toxic and you can't get anywhere near it. You shouldn't even know about it or whatever. I think that it's a good thing on the whole. There's room for people who don't want anything to do with it, and that's fine. And I also think that there's room for kind of like what AOC has been able to do, like these Now This people. Who even are those people? They get these clips from C-SPAN. They create these things that get millions of views. Like, who would have thought this was possible? It's like, I just really want to have a very open mind about where we can go. That's all.
Sure, and I think like for our listeners, like our backdrop to creating opt-out, this independent media aggregator, is that it's impossible to avoid the mainstream media. The corporate media is just there. You can't. There's nothing you can do about it, right? So it's always going to be there. But we have a place,
You're
where
echoing.
people. Yeah, something happened for a second. I don't know.
I think you're good.
So what I was saying is, the corporate media is always there. It's really hard to avoid. So we're creating a place where you can go, like the Brick House. You go somewhere and whether it's 5 minutes a day or it's your entire news experience. You're not going to get the corporate media narratives in there. You're not going to have political operatives for the establishment wings of the two major parties going in there telling you what's news or pretending to be news. So that's kind of our backdrop. Is like I mean.
I love that.
To admit, like there's a lot of reporting, and as Walker was saying, like smaller independent outlets don't have the money to do report on every topic. There's going to be expensive stuff that most independent media can't do, not all, but most. So there are areas where it's important to have kind of well-funded media, often meaning media that's owned by giant multinationals, perhaps, to fill those gaps. But we generally just think that, because there's so much saturation, it's a lot more valuable in general for people to go to independent sources for their media. So what we want to do is promote outlets like Populous Sludge, hopefully some other outlets that are on your roster there at Brickhouse, but and just to get more eyeballs, more ears, on this content. And so we're going to push people to those sites, and we're going to encourage people to download to donate and subscribe to those outlets. That is our mission.
It's like absolutely, like what you said is so great though. It's like this is always going to be there, and like we exist in this huge ecosystem with these behemoths, right? That like the idea that you could just pretend that they don't exist and we can be in some precious little, I mean, we've seen this, right? Like I grew up, with this idea that the sort of activist left was like separate from the rest of the world, really, like operating in this bubble, like by themselves, and not like out there and engaged on their feet, like in the world, it was like this very sort of isolated, university bound feeling, that this isn't something that you're going to carry into your life. This is something that you're going to do at school, and you get people to sign petitions, and then it's over. And I think the moment in history that we're heading into with the global dangers and the sort of destabilization that has come in the wake of the Trump administration, we can't afford that kind of precious feeling anymore. Like everybody, like we have to have new alliances and we have to have a new understanding, and we have to, I think we have to see the sort of media ecosystem as potentially a healthy place for all these entities.
Oh no.
What just happened?
I think we lost Maria. Maybe her phone ran out of batteries.
Stand by. Technical difficulties.
Yeah. She was just dropping some real knowledge on us.
I know, and we're like the least opportune moment for that to happen.
Oh well. Let's give her a minute, but if not, it's probably time to wrap up anyway. But
Yeah.
we'll want to get her to complete that thought.
So let's give it a sec.
It's always great talking to her because she just has such a perspective on this stuff, and a
think
very fair perspective, more fair than I think you and I are.
Excuse me, I'm extremely fair to these war criminal fluffers and
corporate
puppets who sit all day making millions of dollars to repeat and brainwash people into voting against their own interests. Come on, I'm extremely fair to people like Stephanie Rule, who does commercials for big banks, or Joy Reid, who lies about being hacked because, yeah.
Well, yeah, I didn't even get to talk about Opt-Out TV. Oh, there's Maria.
Hi.
Opt-Out TV. Ooh.
Oh, hey there. You cut off. Obviously, I didn't know if you.
I have no idea what happened.
Jump back.
I was in the middle of pontificating.
Yes.
Yes, and it was quite well, might I add.
Thank you. Well, no, okay. I remember what I was saying, and I want to say it because it's a thing to me. It's like we had a certain idea of what the media ecosystem was, and that you could be in a separate sort of walled garden of your own, and sort of talk about things that you think are important alone with the people who already agree with you. There are ways past that now because we're facing all of us this global emergencies of all kinds. And, I think it's possible to envision a world where entities, large and small, people with different kinds of agendas, commercial and otherwise, can coexist, in a way that is productive. When we sort of define ourselves at Brickhouse or at Opt-Out as being independent media organizations that put independence first, that don't have like commercial sort of imperatives first, that readers and viewers can come and look at what we're doing and have a very clear sense of like where that's coming from. And they go watch TV and see the very slick, beautiful, it costs $1 trillion to produce each segment. There's all kinds of people working on it. The research is all perfect, and that's a whole different thing. And then they can watch C-SPAN. And every intelligent person should be looking at all of these things in order to understand through a range of voices and perspectives their own world. And this is what we want to encourage. I think we can do that.
Well, right on. We're right there with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Alex, I think we should wrap it. And
I think it's a good time.
It's a good
We've
time.
had a good discussion as usual.
Super fun.
With Maria. Everyone,
thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching OptOutcast, and I can't emphasize enough how great Brickhouse is. You can subscribe, check it out, and subscribe for a
Yay.
modest
Their
yearly amount.
website
It's
is
thebrick.house.
The brick dot house.
And you're on Twitter at twitter.com/brickhouse co-op. And also Maria is on Twitter at Maria Bustillos, Bustillos.
And Alex
so
could
everyone,
use some love too. He's lagging in followers, and it's
yeah. Well, okay. So now I
somewhat
guess we've reached the
embarrassing.
stage where Walker lords his many more followers than me. But I do encourage everyone to follow us. That's cool. But also follow OptOut's Twitter. It's just at OptOutApp. And also, I hate to admit this to you, Maria, but we are on Instagram. We will never use Facebook, but we are trying out Instagram.
Well,
it's
okay, but it's gonna break up pretty soon.
Let's hope. Yeah,
No,
that would.
The Brick House is on Instagram too, because we have all these comics guys.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, no, they persuaded me that they needed to be on there because of the comics, and and I was like, okay, well, since there's going to be an antitrust lawsuit.
Yeah, let's cross our fingers, hope it works. Because I did see that. I just read Zephyr Teachout's book called Break 'Em Up, so covers Facebook a lot and how that needs to be broken up. So it was cool to see the lawsuit, just like weeks after I read the book. Not long after it came out this year. Great book. But yeah, so we are on Instagram, Opt-Out app. Are you also Brickhouse Co-op at Instagram? Something like that.
I haven't even looked at it, and I think so.
Well, we'll check it out.
We've only been doing this for a week, so.
Yeah, totally. Everything's well. Congratulations again on really awesome venture already,
and enjoy Scotland with the great healthcare.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Come back and
see
us sometime. Thank you both so much.
Yeah. No, I'll be back ASAP in Oakland, where I usually live. But anyways, thank you both so much. It was super duper fun. Okay.
Thank you, and stay safe. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, you too.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, that was good. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will be doing more of these. This is only the beginning. And yeah, so subscribe and let us know, on these videos what you think of Alex's beard. If we're lucky, he'll start experimenting with different cuts. Maybe mutton chops next.
I did dig up the beard balm, which was
it looks good, sir. It looks, it's full. It's very.
I went to North Carolina in the mountains, and I just figured, I guess I have to grow a beard now.
You went to the mountains, and the mountains came back with you.
Yeah, why not? It's not like I ever go out in public anyway. So, everyone, if you're on YouTube watching this, please subscribe to our channel. We want to get a few more than the 43 subscribers we just got, because we just launched it basically. Thumbs up the video, etc. We could use your help.
Smash the like button, as they say.
There you go. But yeah, this is going to be the channel for what's going to be, a nonprofit and a news app. So we're going to have a lot of good content on here. And I think we should wrap up. So everyone, wear a mask. Don't unfollow Donald Trump on Twitter. You don't need to listen.
That was one of the most satisfying things. Let me just say, I finally did it. I was just like, I'm gonna unfollow him because.
Well, I unfollowed several people who lost their elections, but also with Trump, it doesn't you're gonna see it all over the feed unless you block or mute. I guess I will probably mute once he's actually not president anymore.
The thing is, he's still going to be. He will still be relevant, and I think that's the part.
Yeah, but it's all lies, so I don't know how. If you're not reporting on him directly, I don't think there's any value really anymore. But anyway, that was just my advice. Unfollow the guy, wear a mask, stay safe, and check out all the links in our description here for Brickhouse, for Opt-Out, for our Substack, etc.
All right.